In our previous video, we discussed the first listening activity of the TOEIC Listening Section, Part 1, Photographs. We also discussed the basic strategies and tricks involved with this part of the test. In this video, we will be looking at Part 2, the Question and Response section. On this part of the test, there will be 30 questions that you will be asked. Now, before we begin, we need to review a few reminders. First off, note-taking is not permitted on the TOEIC Listening Section. So it becomes very important to recognize that each section of the test will have some techniques and strategies in common. For example, we mentioned that the entire test is multiple choice, and you cannot see the transcripts of any of the listening activities, while each will also have their own unique strategic ideas and tricks. For example, with the photograph section, you have to think about what we can and cannot prove based on what appears in the photo. So, as mentioned also before, the TOEIC listening section is mostly a type of memory test, where you hear information and basically you need to remember it in the order that you hear it. Now, this challenge will appear in different forms throughout the test. For example, in Part 1, we noticed that we got to see the picture, but we didn't get to see the answer choices at all. In our video today, we will have absolutely no visual or textual support. The key will be to think about how we can address these challenges for each part of the test. Now, the examples we're looking at in this video series are taken from the TOEIC Examinee Handbook. The link is provided below this video. But, however, we're asking students in this video series to not look at the download right now. The idea is we want to give you at least somewhat of an experience similar to that on the test. So for now, please don't look at the download. We'll be analyzing the transcript just a little bit later in the video. So from the test itself, you will see these instructions. So let's look at them very quickly. Directions. You will hear a question or statement and 3 responses spoken in English. They will not be printed in your test book and will be spoken only one time. Select the best response to the question or statement and mark the letter A, B, or C on your answer sheet. So, for example, you will hear, "Where is the meeting room?" You will also hear A, "To meet the new director." B, "It's the first room on the right." C, "Yes, at 2 o'clock. The best response to the question, "Where is the meeting room?" is choice B. It's the first room on the right. So B is the correct answer. You should mark answer B on your answer sheet. Now, it's going to be helpful at this point to point out the strategy we discussed in the previous video, a strategy I'm summarizing as point and repeat. In the previous video, we discussed the following 2 types of strategies that we could use. The first one is pointing. Now, what we mean there is point at the answer choices with your pencil as you hear them, as you're hearing them read aloud. This will help kind of focus your attention during the test. We don't want to be distracted during the test, so this particular technique keeps our eyes on the page and gets us to kind of try to remember what were the answer choices given. In conjunction, you also might want to repeat the answer choices. Now, of course, in this example, we also have questions, so you might want to go ahead and repeat the question and the answer choices quietly to yourself. And this will help keep the information active in your brain. So point and repeat. Point with your pencil as you listen to each choice, and then repeat the choices as you're listening to keep the information active. Well, now we're going to get ready to listen to the 5 choices. What I would like for you to do now is to take out a piece of paper and number 1 to 5. After you listen to each question, choose either A, B, or C as the answer. Okay, let's begin. And don't forget to use the strategy we discussed, point and repeat. Question 1. Did you make a dinner reservation? A. I prefer fish. B. Flight 261 to Osaka. C. Yes, it's at 7 o'clock. Question 2. Who takes the packages to the post office? A. Turn left at the corner. B. Martin usually does it. C. No, I didn't. Question 3. This software is difficult to use, isn't it? A. Yes, it's very complicated. B. Yes, I often wear it. C. No, but she used to. Question 4. Why don't you have a seat while you wait? A. 2 in the same row, please. B. It didn't weigh very much. C. Thanks, I think I will. Question 5. They've reduced the price of these cameras. A. Then let's go ahead and buy one. B. I don't think we've been introduced. C. I never win anything. Okay, now that we're finished, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the transcript. So now you may look at the transcript from the download. We're looking now at part 2. So let's go through each one quickly and identify the answer. So number 1, did you make a dinner reservation? The answer is C. Yes, it's at 7 o'clock. Number 2, who takes the packages to the post office? The answer is B. Martin usually does it. Number 3, this software is difficult to use, isn't it? The answer is A. Yes, it's very complicated. Number 4, why don't you have a seat while you wait? The answer is C. Thanks, I think I will. And number 5, they've reduced the price of these cameras. A. Then let's go ahead and buy one. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the transcript of the question and the answers to kind of focus on some of the particular tricks and the types of strategies we need to use to solve them. So really, we're going to call this part of the video something old and something new, because you might notice already that some of the tricks we've seen before. For example, we notice that there are some similar sounding words or ideas. Let's jump to number 5 for a moment. Now, again, you notice you hear the words, they've reduced the price of the cameras. But then you also notice that in choice B, with reduced, we have a word that sounds very much the same, introduced. Notice the second part of the word sounds very much like the second part of the word reduced. That's because students often have difficulty hearing the beginnings of words, and especially information that's in the middle of the answer choice. So in this case, if it's hard to kind of distinguish the difference between the first word and the second word, it might be also difficult to recognize that introduced is not the same word. The other challenge is we have the word price. Now, we don't have an answer choice that sounds the same, but we do have the word when. And if we think about it, price sounds a lot like prize, which is something you win. So in this case, we do have some words that are kind of similar or at least suggest each other. Let's look at a couple of others. In numbers 3 and 4, you will notice that, again, they're playing on the particular words that we see. For example, software in the question itself, and in B, the answer choice, the word where. We also have weight, and then, of course, we have the word weigh. Again, these two words sound very much the same. Another trick that we saw in Part 1 is when we have words that have either different meanings or forms that exist in different contexts. So, for example, we do hear the word dinner in the answer choice, which means immediately a student might think that we're looking for a food answer. Well, that's true. Dinner is talking about food, but that's actually not the focus of the question. It's a dinner reservation. Now, of course, reservation could also trick us here, because we often think of reservations with restaurants, but we could also think of reservations with a flight reservation, when we have a ticket booked for a particular flight. We also had a trick, if you think about it, in the example that we were given. For example, we have meeting room, which, of course, meeting in this case basically is talking about a meeting that we have probably every week versus meeting someone for the first time. So here we have basically almost the same word, but a different meaning. To meet someone for the first time versus meeting someone in a room, which would be a place where you would meet every week. Now, of course, we also have some new tricks. Part of the idea, if you notice, is that this is question and response. So really, we need to look through the particular confusing characteristics that exist with the three basic question types that we have in language. Tag questions, question words, and yes or no questions. So for example, when we go back to the first three questions, let's see if we can identify what kinds of questions they are. So for example, in number 1, did you make a dinner reservation? Is that a yes or no question, an information question, or a tag question? In number 2, we have who takes the packages to the post office? Again, is this a tag question, an information question, or is it a yes or no question? And finally, number 3, again, this software is difficult to use, isn't it? Is it a regular question, yes or no, information? Or is it a tag question? Well, in this case, the first one is a yes or no question. We're looking to confirm a particular answer. In number 2, it is a question word, which means we're looking for a specific piece of information. And then in number 3, it's a tag question. So the question is, do we understand some of the confusing aspects of all three of these types of questions and how the tricks exist here on the test? Well, let's start with yes or no. The basic purpose of yes or no questions are to confirm or deny information. So, for example, when someone says, "Can you do this?" we generally look for answers such as, "Yes, I can," or "No, I can't." But then notice that we don't use yes or no questions to directly address or provide specific information. So, for example, are you working tonight? And we respond with, "Barry is my friend." Notice in this case, are you is looking for a yes or no answer. This response is giving us a specific piece of information. So in this case, if this were an answer choice, we would eliminate it. Of course, we also need to recognize that yes or no questions are not just always answered with yes or no. People might also add more information after the yes or no part. So, for example, are you working tonight? No, but Barry is, and he works until 10. So in this case, this would be an acceptable answer to a yes or no question. Okay, now with question words, basically we think of question words as asking for specific information, involving those words, the WH words, such as who, what, when, why, where, and how. But we don't usually use question words to confirm or deny information. We're usually looking for something specific. So for example, if somebody says what time it is, if you responded with yes, of course, clearly this would be a wrong answer. So in this case, we're actually looking for a specific piece of information. Finally, for tag questions, we often use them to confirm or deny the accuracy of a statement, or often to seek agreement. For example, he's your friend, right? Or he's your friend, isn't he? Notice here we say, yes, he is. We've known each other for years. So, of course, it's not uncommon to add more information there as well. We also use them possibly to get more information, but the first response that we get usually involves the words yes or no. Now, notice this will be a particular trick on the test because since the tag, if you can notice here, the tag is at the end of the sentence, oftentimes we notice that at the beginning of it, it sounds more like a sentence. So part of the trick might be in the tag question that all of the answer choices might use yes or no, but the question is, do we understand what the question's actually looking for? Well, part of it is involving the last part of the tag. Notice in the last example here, or the second example, isn't he, the response would be using basically the same form, he is, or he isn't, depending on the response. So in the tag, we would have to use the same helping verb, and we would also use the same person. So again, part of it is, are we paying attention to that? And how can the test try to trick us? So going back to those three answer choices, let's see first off, which ones will we eliminate right away? Well, for the yes or no question, we could easily eliminate any answer choices that don't involve the words yes or no. So in this case, we could easily eliminate A or B if we think about it from a perspective of the question. Now in number 2, same thing. Notice we're looking for a specific piece of information. So in this case, C would be the one that we would eliminate because we don't answer a who question with no. Finally, in number 3, notice that all 3 of the choices involve yes or no. But the key is to play on the idea of the tag. So first off, we can see right away that since the tag involves is and it, we can easily eliminate C because C does not involve any of those in the tag. But then notice in B, since we were playing on the word where, and we're also playing on the word it from the tag itself, that could be pretty tricky when determining the answer. So again, for each particular answer choice, part of the other idea we have to think about is what type of question is being used. That will also help in solving the particular situation. So our final thoughts. The question and response part of the TOEIC involves the ability to discern between similar sounding words or ideas, the ability to recognize how words work in specific contexts, and also the ability to recognize specific characteristics of different question types. So again, the yes-no questions, question words, and tag questions. It's also important to remember that the questions themselves will be given only once, along with the answer choices. And you are not allowed to take notes. So remember the strategy we discussed. Repeat the question and answer choices to yourself quietly immediately after you hear them. And use your pencil to direct your attention to the answer choices, mentally eliminating choices if possible. As discussed in the first video, there are lots of great materials out there to help prepare for the TOEIC. The Tactics for TOEIC series, produced by Grant True, and also our new TOEFL and TOEIC preparation website, and the link can be found at the bottom of this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time for Video 3, Listening Part 3.